Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our series. Tonight, we will be discussing a new topic, auditioning for musical theater, but this time we'll be discussing how to work with your accompanist. Tonight's guest is Matt Eisenstein. Matt has worked on multiple Broadway shows. He's a vocal coach. He is an accompanist. He is a conductor, a music director. He does it all. So I'll let Matt introduce himself a little bit more later. But now, for those who have watched in the past, we sometimes do draws for coachings with our guest speakers. So tonight, we are doing a draw for coaching with Matt. You guys can coach your 32-bar cut with Matt, or just ask him general industry questions, or any of the other things that he does. Once again, I'll let him talk more about that. In order to enter the draw, all you need to do is answer questions during the stream. These won't be anything special. It'll just be things that we ask to find out more about you guys, about who's watching. So we'll ask questions like, what's your favorite musical theater song? Just to find out more about you and to have a way to enter you guys into the draw. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Matt. Here we go. Hi, Matt. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you again for doing this.
Absolutely.
Now, Matt, could you talk a little bit more about the services you can provide and things you can talk about, and also how people can contact you in case anybody wants a coaching?
Sure. I'll just talk a little bit about myself, and then I'll get into that.
Yeah, sure.
It feels so weird, talking about everything that you've done because you haven't done it for like almost a year.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we're on our way back. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes.
Here. So anyway, I just finished the Broadway run of Frozen. I was the assistant conductor. I played keyboard in the pit, and I also conducted the show and did a lot of rehearsals. Before that, I did the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the short-lived, unfortunately, on Broadway. I did Something Rotten. I was involved with that show since the first reading. I was the associate conductor and the piano player in the pit. I did the full run of Disney's Newsies on Broadway. I also did Promises Revival with Kristen Chenoweth and Sean Hayes. I did Elf. I did both years of Elf on Broadway. Let's see, Bye Bye Birdie, the revival at Roundabout. And then other shows that I've conducted, Next to Normal, 13. 13, I went to Goodspeed to work on the Out of Town tryout with, nobody knew Ariana Grande. And Les Miserables, 42nd Street, The Fiddler. I've done a bunch of shows. In total, like if I count like all the shows that I've either played in the pit or conducted, it's somewhere around between 40 and 45 shows. So it's been a really nice ride, I would say. And I've spent many, many, many hours as an audition accompanist and vocal coach. I've worked a lot for Tara Rubin's office, a lot for Telsey's office, a bunch for Binder over the years. So I've just, very comfortable in the room being the accompanist. And also I've also been on the other side of the table, been the music director, the associate music director, adjudicating, the auditions that are coming in. And helping, give the perspective from the music department, which actually I was thinking I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I think, the music directors look for at auditions.
Oh, that'd be great, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, but I think I also, as a composer, I have a CD out of solo piano music that I've written, kind of new agey.
Oh, wow.
But what a lot of people know me for is a part, in addition to the vocal coaching, I make rehearsal accompaniment tracks for people, who need, the accompaniment of a certain cut, or, have a certain timing they do, of My White Knight, and don't like the tracks that, are out there already. Or they just need to learn a bunch of songs, or they need to learn a whole role in a show. Actually, I also have like high schools, ask me to record like an entire show for them. So that's been good. And I also do transcriptions of music that isn't published, pop songs, theater songs, and because I have so many years of experience as an audition pianist and as a piano player in general, I know how to write for the piano, so that way it's sight readable for the audition accompanist, and also, gives the essence of the song, especially if it's like a pop song, kind of gives the groove and makes it pianistic, but also accessible to read, so so I do a lot of that kind of stuff. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, you can go to my website, which is www.matteisenstein.com, and it's Matt with one T. And I'm also on Facebook, Matt Eisenstein Music Services, Twitter, Matt Eisenstein Music Services. And I'm always, happy to talk to anybody who's interested in whatever I do.
Awesome. Yeah, and for those watching, there at the end of the stream, there'll be kind of an end contact info screen. So Matt's website will be on there. So it'll be easy to contact. If anything, you can always message this page if you can't, for some reason, find Matt. But like you said, it shouldn't be too hard. I mean, I think you can also Google your name and your website comes up like first or second too. So it's not too hard. I can also confirm that Matt's tracks are amazing, especially if you have, even if you have a last minute audition, not that we have many these days, unfortunately, but he gets them to you like right away. Because I remember I was like, yeah, I don't need it for another like week. Matt's like, it'll be done in an hour. I was like, okay, that's great.
Because I know a lot, like almost all the repertoire, so it's very easy. And actually, I like doing it. I like the rep. I like the musical theater songs. I like pop songs. Whatever. So it kind of I enjoy doing the work. So that's why it kind of comes fast. And I feel like something that sets what I do apart from others is like I feel like I really kind of make the music musical. And make the singer feel like they're singing with the orchestra, as opposed to a lot of tracks you just kind of hear, very, like very like
a meaty track, or like your typical karaoke thing you find on YouTube. Yeah.
No, I'm always thinking musically, and how to support the singer, and also kind of like second guessing the singer, where the breaths would be and the phrasing and all that kind of stuff. So, and then, if somebody decides like they, want to do a certain phrase slower or whatever, or in a different key, I can adjust very easily because I'm doing everything all digitally on Logic. So, it's pretty simple for me to make adjustments.
Okay, awesome. Well, before we jump into questions, I just want to ask the first question for the draw for those watching. For those who are just joining us, I see some people just joined. We are doing a draw for a coaching with Matt. So in order to enter the draw, all you have to do is answer questions, and you get entered into the draw once per question. You can answer each question more than once, but you only get entered into the draw once per question. So the first question is pretty simple. We ask this question, I think, pretty much for every draw, because I guess it's fun, but what is everyone's favorite musical, since we're talking about musicals today? Put it down in comments, and once you answer, I'll put your name in the on the draw list. And the question from Matt, I think, could you go over maybe some basic things, or like something that you usually tell your students or talk about during your coachings, like general things about auditioning and working with your audition accompanist? And I'm sure that'll cover a lot of questions that people have already.
Yeah, okay, I'll go over things that I have come across over the years of dealing with the accompanist that I find helpful for people.
Yes, perfect.
I know, a lot of people always say that the first thing that they see when you walk in the audition room is your interaction with the pianist. So I think it's very important to, be friendly and not spend too much time at the pianist, but also be, clear and prepared and have things ready to go. Another thing is don't invade the personal space too much. There is a famous story about somebody who's a Broadway accompanist who is probably a little bit older than I am, but if somebody would come, and put their book over his shoulder, he would like kind of jump up and, kind of really had a thing about, germs or whatever. So you don't want to get like too close, really respect the space. And also watch where your feet are, because I've had people like kick down my water bottle like all the time. And I know you guys are nervous and whatever, but just be aware of the space. Let's see. The one thing that I find is very, very important is know where your songs are in the book. So especially the song that you're going to start out with, and I don't know whether that you want to do tabs or make them all alphabetical or in different genres of music. But, I can't tell you the amount of times where, somebody sings something and then the casting director says, do you have, a contemporary ballad that you could sing us a little bit of? And then the person is, spending like, an hour finding the music, So I think you can very easily, take care of that, just, organizing your music. And also another thing I always say is make sure that the pages are in order, because people, I know you're kind of like shuffling out, pages all the time, especially when you're using like the pocket protector kind of things. And sometimes people, forget to put in a page. So like, a page of another song will be there, you turn the page and you don't see the music that you're, just coming from, or it's in another key. I've had all these things kind of happen to me over the years. So, yeah, always good to, triple check everything. Basically showing the pianist where you're going to start, where you're going to end. I know, most of the times the ending is obvious because it's the final bar, but sometimes you're doing a cut. And as far as beginning, do you want a bell tone? Do you want an introduction? Are you going to tell the pianist like, are you wanting to start the audition a certain way by looking down and then looking up, and then you want the music to start? All that stuff can be quickly communicated. Something not to say to the pianist is, do you know this? Especially if you're in New York, because New York, you have, the best pianists almost in the world, and especially musical theater pianists. So, anybody who's pretty much doing this for a living is going to know the repertoire, and if they don't, they'll know the style, they'll know the composer. So I don't think it really helps. I think it could be more insulting to somebody. Sometimes if I was the audition pianist and I see a piece of music that I didn't know, I would say to the auditioner, I'd say, oh, you know what? I've never seen this before. Can you just, explain to me, what the feel is, what the tempo is, and, and I kind of make it my responsibility, because the thing is, when I'm the accompanist, I really want to do a good job, for myself, for my ego, and for you, but also I want them to keep hiring me, and not screw anybody's audition up, So, it behooves me also to like understand, the music as well as I can, as in such a short time that, we get to interact with the actor. What I recommend about the tempo, I know people are taught all kinds of things to, lightly tap. I like, if somebody just sings the first phrase of something to me, I have often walked, then I kind of like get a sense like, okay, that's going to be their pace of On the Street Where You Live. So, so I'll be in that kind of tempo. Okay, always say thank you when you're done, even if the pianist was terrible. which, you know, sometimes happens. I feel like maybe that's happened to me where I was the terrible pianist a few times. My fault, maybe their fault, maybe both of our faults. If the tempo is wrong, and you know, somebody, like if you're just on the street where you live and the pianist starts playing, you know, and it still feels like a dirge, you know, if you're close to the beginning, stop and say, oh, you know, can we start again? I must have given you the wrong tempo. Make it, I know this is kind of hard to tell people, but make it your fault. Don't make it the pianist's fault. Just say, you know, I don't think I explained myself that well. And then, you know, they'll know behind the table, they'll know what's going on. They're gonna see you, you know, giving the tempo, especially the music director. So, you know, that's not gonna happen many times, but sometime it will. Another thing that I think is always important to do is, especially if you're doing like the open calls, is if it's possible, listen to the pianist when you're outside in the room, and you know, you're gonna know like if somebody, you know, sounds amazing or doesn't, and especially you're gonna see actors, you know, just coming out, and you know, people will either be upset that, you know, that it didn't go well with the pianist, or everybody, you know, most people will be happy, you know, oh, the pianist was great, you know, whatever. So just pay attention to that, because that also will help you, might help you choose, you know, to do a different song. Like, you know, so if you find like, oh my God, this pianist just played, you know, some Jason Robert Brown song, some hard Jason Robert Brown song. Oh, okay, I can bring in my Sondheim, and you know, and it's gonna, you know, I have a pretty good chance of it going well, you know. And another thing is, if you can, just sing with as many pianists as you can, you know, to take vocal coachings from different people, different pianists, and especially pianists who play auditions, because this way you'll kind of get a sense of like what the variables are of, you know, how people play your song. And, you know, I know there's a lot of pop music, especially out there, where, you know, in the piano part, the melody is doubled pretty much. It kind of gives you a little bit of a semblance of a groove, but, you know, it really does not sound like the song. So you're gonna want to hear what people do with it, you know? I mean, a lot of times if it's, you know, some kind of like 50s or 60s, you know, most people are gonna, you know, like what kind of groove to do. But if you're finding that when you rehearse with pianists and people are kind of not getting it, you know, I would get together with a vocal coach, somebody like me, and have the pianist come up with something that sounds good to you, and have it all be written out, so you know what, you know, the song is going to sound like, and there's not going to be any surprises. And this way, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So yes, practice with different. I know a lot of you have, you know, sung with many accompanists over the years, but especially if you're trying out new material, always a good idea to, you know, have a couple of pianists play. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to do that soon in person.
Hopefully, yes.
Yes.
Hoping so. Yeah, to add to your point, it's something you said about picking a different song right before you enter the room. I've done that before, except I always pick the easiest song. I'm like, okay, so this is pretty easy to play. I'll pick this just in case. And then when if I know the accompanist and I see their name on you know, on the EPA sheet, then I'm like, oh, okay, I know this person. Let me pick something harder. Or if I don't know this person, I've been in rooms before where I'm standing in line with my group of 10, and then I can hear the accompanist playing, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm switching this to a Sondheim now. Right. So I've definitely done that before, like 2 seconds before entering the room.
Another thing that I just thought of, like, you know, say there's this Michael John McCusa song that you really just love and you have to sing, but, you know, it's hard to sight read.
Yeah.
People like me and myself and people like me sometimes will do like a dummied down version of, you know, writing it out, so that way, you know, it's sight readable for the pianist, and the pianist won't have to go, you know, crazy. reading all those notes, just kind of simplifying it, giving the singer what they need while still kind of retaining, the song's essence. So I've done that a bunch.
Yeah, I personally make sure there's always like chords in there just in case. So like
Another,
anybody can play chords.
and always make sure the chords are correct, because I can't tell you the amount of time that, like there's printed music and, that doesn't have the chords, and then there's chords written and they're wrong, or they're in another key. And because that also, like all of a sudden gives us a heart attack.
It's like, what key are we in here?
Exactly. Or like, you're looking at the chord and the piano music and it's not jiving together. So yeah, just make sure that all that is totally correct and legible.
Yes, completely makes sense. Now, quickly, before I follow up on something else you said before, thank you to everybody who has been commenting and entering the draw. If you have any questions for Matt, make sure to put them in comments as soon as you can. We do have a bunch of questions prepared for tonight, so no guarantees we can get to all the questions, but if you'd like to ask anything, just make sure you put it down in comments as soon as you can to make sure we get to it. And another question for the draw for you guys. If you'd like to enter the draw, just answer the question and you'll be entered into the draw. Since we've been discussing composers, why don't we do this? Who is your favorite composer? It could be musical theater, it could be a classical composer, anyone you want. Just put down any name or names of your favorite composer. And for Matt, I just wanted to, I guess, ask you a couple more questions about starting the song. So you said I know some accompanists have a preference, so they I've done auditions before where I said, oh, can you just give me the starting pitch to avoid, because if it's like 8 bars, you do the 8 bars. I'm like, okay, I don't have time for the intro. And I've had accompanists say, oh, actually, I'm gonna play a little intro for you or a chord instead or something. So I'm assuming there's a preference. Some pianists have probably like a preference that they get into the groove of it before they accompany, or is it?
You know what? I mean, when people have it marked or ask me, I do what they tell me to do. I don't, suggest something else, because I think then that throws the actor, because you've been rehearsing it with the bell, and sometimes you need a bar or 2 intro to really like get you into the groove of the song, but sometimes you can just, pick it out. A lot of times also make sure if you get the bell tone, make sure that the singer has the pickup or sings right on the downbeat. Because if the singer sings on beat 2 or beat 3 in the first measure, it's like you get the bell tone and nobody knows when to start,
Yeah.
So, if you don't start on beat 1 or the pickup, I would suggest, you have a measure intro. So that's something to just think about for those kinds of situations. But yes, I don't think I prefer either, I think whatever is making the singer feel comfortable. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And the starting where you said, I guess the singer can let you know if they're going to be, just standing there taking a breath and then start, or if they just give you a quick nod or something, right?
Right. Yeah. I think the universal sign language to pianist is, kind of just giving a quick nod or nodding, looking forward, so that way you don't have to, make the turn.
Yeah.
I wouldn't spend too much time, after you're done with the pianist and you're going, I don't know whether they might talk to you a little bit, but you want to get started, performing right away. You don't want to take, too much time, doing a whole, meditation kind of thing.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
It's like, wait for it.
Yeah. Do that before. Do that outside the room, Come in and be ready. Be ready, drink the water before you get in the room, so you don't have to get in there and have everybody watch you drink water. It might be one thing if it's kind of like a work session and you've been singing for 10 minutes and you want to just take a little water in there for the chords, and then you're going to continue on, of course. But Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much come prepared is what you're saying.
Yeah, and don't spend too much time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if it's New York auditions and they're like, go, 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 go.
Yes, because right, we want to keep going and get as many people in as possible. Yeah, especially the non-equity people. You want to try to have some room left over at the end of the day so that they get a chance.
Yeah. Now, this question came up a couple of times. A couple of people messaged me, so it's on the list today. How do you feel about people when they perform songs and instead of just standing there and singing, if they walk around the room or like lean on the piano because that's their character, especially with comedic songs? Is that distracting? Is that okay? What are your thoughts?
Usually the actor will talk to me and tell me that they're going to do something, or if they want me to, I wouldn't ask the pianist to participate too much, but if you, I would be fine like saying a line or giving a quick look, but I think that's about it. And, you could certainly, start by the piano if it's like a, torchy kind of song or something that, justifies that. Walking around the room, it depends what it is. Most of the time you want to kind of just stay in a stationary place. If you walk around the room, you're going to make everybody nervous. And, if the character calls for that though, like maybe next to normal, Diana is going through her, her psyche stuff and she has to, move around because she's kind of manic, that would make sense. But, again, not too much, less is more.
Totally makes sense. Yeah, I can only see the scenario of somebody doing that is if they're like going for like, I don't know, like Lady of the Lake character or something, like someone's, someone who would totally do that. So it's, I guess if it's like very comedic or very out there, technically.
Right. And they might ask you,
Yeah.
after you, especially like in a callback situation, can you, use the space more, blah, 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 that kind of thing.
Okay, perfect. Now, for those who are watching, thanks everybody for entering the draw. And I see a couple of questions. A couple of people also messaged me. So you guys, if you're watching, it's better if you put your questions in comments just because I don't always have a chance to check the messages. So if you're not comfortable commenting for whatever reason, it's fine. You can send the messages, but I don't guarantee I'll see those before the end of the stream. So another question for everybody entering the draw. I know we usually do this, but this is a fun one, and we usually do Disney. So let's do a non-Disney, but a super popular musical. Since Matt and I discussed Les Mis today, and he played something from Les Mis right before the stream, I feel like we should ask this question. So I'm sure everybody knows Les Mis. So the question is, for those of you watching, who would you want to play in Les Mis? What would your favorite role be? Or if you don't like that show, who do you think you'd be cast as if you had to do the show? If you absolutely had to do Les Mis, oh my gosh, who would you want to play? And Les Mis is one of my favorite shows. I played Cosette in Les Mis, but I would totally also want to play like every single other role on there. It's just, I love Les Mis. So when you started playing it, I'm like, oh my God, play more, please. But anyway, so moving on, the question for you, Matt, sheet music. So what are some of the key things you want to see in the sheet music? So I'm talking like time signature, key signature, because I personally totally forgot to include a time signature once for my cut because it was in the middle of the song and there was no time signature. And I was like, oh my God, thank God it was 4/4, so it wasn't that hard to figure out, but still. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's a good, if it is a cut and you're starting in the middle of the song, you always want to make sure that the time signature and the key signature is on the first stave where you're going to start singing. Also, if you're going to start in the middle of the song, it's good to write the title of the song at the top of the page because it always won't be, evident what song it is. I found that that's happened to me a couple times. So, this way, if I see, Bridges of Madison County, like, I know what the style's going to be, and then as I'm going through the song, I'm like, oh, of course I know this, we talked about, the start and end place. If you're making jumps in the music, different places, cover up with white paper the staves that you're not going to perform. So that way it's very clean. So we see, the last bar that you're going to sing, and then going right to the next measure that you're going to sing. So we don't see any music in between that, because sometimes if an audition accompanist is playing like a long day of auditions, 8 hours, by 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, our mind is we're starting to lose it. And it's very easy to make mistakes. So anything you can do to make the directions as foolproof as possible is good. If it's a song that has lots of meter changes, like I tell my clients to highlight the time signatures, highlight the different tempo changes. That way it just kind of really pops out at us. If we don't, especially if we don't know the song. People might have other opinions about that, but I've always found that helpful for me. And my clients have told me that it's been helpful for them. And just all the things that we talked about before, as far as, having the pages in order and the right pages in order and in the right key, and the right chord symbols. Yeah.
Totally makes sense. All that stuff. I
was just gonna say, people ask all the time, the pocket protectors or, the cardstock. I think it's better to have everything in a binder, whether it's the pocket protectors or not. That way everything's just right there, and you can easily, get to other stuff, and you're not spending time opening the cardstock. And sometimes on the upright pianos that have that, the little stand right above the keyboard, sometimes those are loose and the music always falls. So within the book, it has more chance of kind of like staying in place. So.
Yeah, I'm so paranoid about the music. So I usually, well, first of all, I edit the PDFs to like move the bars around if I want like a cut. And then I try to tape them together. So usually it comes up to like sometimes 2 sheets, depending on how fast the tempo is, but sometimes it's 3 sheets. So I lay it out. Is that too much, or like, do you mind flipping pages, or what's?
No, I don't. I think it's, we pianists are used to page turns. So, don't you guys worry about that. But, if if you have some extra time on your hands and you're doing the cut and paste thing, which I always love and appreciate when people do that, because it just makes everything easy. Maybe you find the bar where the pianist is just, holding a chord, to be the last bar on the page where you turn, So, but don't stress out about that. That's if you have the extra time and energy.
do it perfectly. Yeah, I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. I mean, I also play the piano, but obviously not as well as you do. So I'm always like page turns. I'm like, oh my God, somebody turn the page for me. I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So, but I guess, yeah, you're right. If you play like thousands of auditions and play piano all the time, you get used to page turns either way.
Yes, we're certainly used to it. So
now, page turn thing reminds me. How do you feel about iPads? I've heard people. I mean, I have a lot of music on iPad, but I've never brought it into an audition. But I've heard of people doing that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I've played for people with the iPad. Fortunately, there's never been a disaster. But I would tell my clients to use music on paper, just because why chance that, that the pianist is going to swipe something too hard or too slow and, going to skip something. If the music is printed, it's just all right there, and it's sequential, hopefully.
All right. I'm just reading comments here. We have a couple of questions. Jalen, I see your question. I'm going to get to it a little bit later just because it's a little bit off topic, but if we have time, I promise we'll get to that. Others, I have your questions and comments on in order we get them received, so don't you worry, we'll try to get to them. Now, Lisa is saying she's never seen Les Mis. Lisa, come on, Les Mis, it's my favorite show. Well, I feel like now we have to ask another question about casting and roles. How about Into the Woods? I mean, there's been a movie recently too. So for those of you guys entering the draw, which role would you like to play in Into the Woods, or which role do you think you would get cast in that show? And for Matt, since you mentioned sheet music and specifically melody doubling, or the piano accompaniment doubling the melody, that personally I have had to get actual scores from actual shows, because everything you find online, for whatever reason, they put the melody in the right hand of the piano. And I'm like, that gives you like zero things to do. Like you have to sing it as written or else it sounds weird. So two questions, I guess. I know we've discussed this before, but you are okay with people asking you to not play the melody if it's there, right? And also, I wanted to ask you if you knew what was the best way to get sheet music that is, more show-like versus I'm plunking the melody and it's sounding weird.
Right. Everything is such an individual situation, Okay, so just remind me, the first question again was, Julia.
Oh yes, I should have asked those separately because they're very different. So
I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I've been watching them all day, so.
Makes sense. I actually almost forgot what I asked too, but you. It's like, well, what was the first question again? But yeah, the first question was, are you okay with people bringing in sheet music that has the melody doubled and asking you to not play the melody, or is that too complicated? Would you rather just play as written?
Right. I think it depends on the pianist, and I think it also depends on the era of the music. Mm-hmm. For instance, like a lot of Gershwin, Cole Porter, Irving Berlin, like pianists pretty much know what to do with that, how to not play the melody, just because it's just kind of like a little bit of a formula.
Yeah.
And then pop songs too, like if the groove is established well in the introduction, you can kind of figure out how to. But if you want to make sure that you hear the same thing every time, and every pianist can play it as best as most possible the same way, just have the piano part written out. Mm-hmm. Now, and for a 16 bar or 32 bar, like that's not going to be that expensive. Also, if you go to the scores, like sometimes like the Crazy for You score is like impossible to play. Just the way it's kind of like a reduction,
Yeah.
And pianists have learned to, I've learned how to play stuff from that score, don't get me wrong. But a lot of times, like that stuff is not sight readable. Like the City of Angels is particularly hard. That's, something that you want to probably use the vocal selections. So again, this is all questions that I think you'll find out with a vocal coach or a pianist that that you're working with, and it will be evident what to do in each case.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Just get somebody, if you don't play piano, just get somebody else to play it and tell you if it's like impossible to sight read.
Right, because a lot of times if you don't read music, you really are a little bit unaware of what it so by having people play it, you'll get an idea of what the parameters are of how people play it. So
yeah. Okay, and then the follow-up question was, do you have any suggestions as to where people can get sheet music?
Mhm. Well, of course, all the sites, that all the legal sites, that should be always your first, first attempt. But there's a lot of songs that are not printed. From like say a show called let's see, The Gay Life, we, starring Barbara Cook. You know, probably in the 50s. It's not The Gay Life.
Yeah,
Anyways,
I've never heard of that show.
yeah.
Maybe because it's not printed.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, actually, like a lot of Kurt Weill's score, like I think the Love Life score isn't
Mm-hmm.
printed. I maybe be totally wrong, but sometimes it's not easily accessible. And if you're working with people who are or who have been in the business, people have collections of music, and I would just try to find somebody who has a collection or ask around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you guys, for those watching, actually, we had, and I know Matt, Michael Levine. We've had him on a couple of previous streams. He's got a huge sheet music collection. He actually got a few rare sheet music
Yeah.
sheets, if I may say that, for me. So if you're looking for something, contact Michael. He can pretty much find you anything.
Yeah. Ask around. I see all the time I'm on the Accompanist board on Facebook. Sometimes an actor will say, hey, does anybody have this song?
Yeah.
So, and I think people are always really willing, if they have it, willing to share for the most part. And maybe if it's from a pianist, maybe they might say, oh, can you buy a recording of me playing it, for $5 or $10, whatever. That makes things a little, because the person might have to scan this, the music, and it's time consuming. So.
All right, makes sense. Now, those of you guys watching, if anybody's joining us right now, we are doing a draw for coaching with Matt. So our next question is, and I'm asking this now because I'm going to ask Matt a follow-up question about that too. So you guys watching, do you have any audition horror stories with that you had with Accompanists, whether you brought in the completely wrong music and it all got messed up, or any other interesting stories? You don't have to, I know you're trying to watch the stream, so you don't have to go into detail, but just let us know quickly if you have any interesting stories. And Matt, my question has to do with my horror story audition, where I decided it was a good idea to bring a classical piece, so like an opera piece, to a musical theater audition, because it was a classical show. So I was like, okay, fingers crossed. And I shouldn't have done that, because I guess musical theater accompanists don't necessarily know the classical repertoire. So the accompanist couldn't play it. I ended up singing it a cappella, and the accompanist was trying to catch up, but it just was so bad. And I was like, I feel so bad bringing that in and making the accompanist look bad. So my question to you is, how do you feel about classical stuff? Say you're playing for the Phantom of the Opera, and I know they sometimes ask or tell that you can bring opera in, but if they don't, how do you feel about that?
For the most part, for Phantom, when they're having the days of auditions for Carlotta and Piangi, they're going to have an accompanist there who knows the rep. It's a Broadway production. They're going to have like the best person there possible. And then I think it depends on the piece. That might be a case where you might ask the pianist, this, in the classical world, just because the rep is totally different. I remember the first time somebody brought in the Willow song. I forget what opera that's from. Maybe you can find out, Julia. But I didn't know it, and the accompaniment is pretty hard, and that didn't go well. I did not play that well. But then I made sure that I got a copy of that song and figured out how to play it. Should this ever happen again? And it does. It does happen again. The piece will come back at another point in time. So now, I crossed that one off the list. But musical theater pianists shouldn't be expected to know Mozart arias, and if maybe being able to sight read them would be good, but I don't think it's a good idea to expect that.
Okay, yeah. So I'm assuming unless they specifically ask for an opera song, in which case they're probably getting a classical accompanist who's familiar with all that.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of times, like we're doing a Sondheim show, we want somebody who's playing, the auditions to know the Sondheim rep, because people are going to move on, and they're going to be, finishing the hat. We want somebody who knows all those songs.
All right. Now everybody answering questions. We're getting some interesting stories here. I don't have time to read them all now, but I'm looking at some of them, and I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Now, okay, let's ask the next question for the draw to make sure I do not forget that. Oh, we've asked this before, but I guess it's very relevant for musical theater. Let us know what voice type you are: soprano, mezzo, tenor, etc., etc. And you'll get entered into the draw if you do. And for Matt, we have a question from Jaylan that actually is also kind of one of the questions we had in mind for tonight too. Jaylan is asking, is it okay to ask for a song to be played in a different key?
No.
Short answer.
Unless you brought in your own accompanist. Yeah, I don't think you can expect that everybody's going to be able to transpose on site, and even with just chord symbols too. Better to be prepared and have the song, in the key that you want to sing it, or have somebody transpose it, write it out for you. I wound up getting a lot of experience transposing because when I moved into New York in the early 90s, I played at this HB Studios downtown. And for every musical theater class that I was playing, nobody came in and sang the song in the written key. So I was forced to learn to transpose. And that was great for me because, now I'm, maybe a year or two after I started doing that a lot, I became very comfortable with transposing. And, it's very handy skill for us because, you're doing a show, and an actor, you want to try out different keys with an actor, see, what feels good for them. And, if you can be quick and be on it, you're going to look good. So, yeah. Don't ask the accompanist to transpose the song, right there and then.
Yes. So I'm getting the feel that I feel like if however you want the song played, just bring the sheet music written that way and make sure you have chords and help the accompanist as much as you can is pretty much a good rule to go by, right?
Yeah, I think, being prepared, you're just going to, excuse me, my 5-year-old is calling. What do you need, Phil? Okay, well, why don't you come? You just hang out here for a few minutes, okay?
We get special appearances by family members all the time. Welcome to Zoom.
It's almost bedtime, so things are a little hectic. All right, I'm doing a little.
Hi.
Right now. This is Philip. Everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, he planned that. He planned for the kid to come in."
Well, now he's got to tell us about accompaniments.
Exactly. Okay, getting back to what we were talking about. Sorry, I such a short-term memory these days. Yes, you have the best chance of doing well, giving the accompanist the best chance of doing well. Does that make sense?
Completely makes sense. Yes.
Huh?
Now, I think we have about 10 minutes left. So if anybody else wants to ask any questions, make sure to ask them now. Some of the questions weren't related to our topic today. So I promise we'll get to them in our future streams, you guys, for those who are watching. I think Jalen, you had a question about composers. We're actually trying to get a composer or two on these streams to talk about composing music, so you can ask them questions as well. And I'm taking down all the questions that we didn't have a chance to answer them in the next streams. So no worries about that. But I will ask you guys another question for the draw. Let's see. Well, actually, I think that this is always a good one. I know the composer question already came up, but what other topics would you like us to cover in these streams? If you've already answered this question in previous streams, don't worry, you don't have to answer it again. We've already jotted that down, so we'll get new streams out to you hopefully. If you'd like to hear anything else for these streams, let us know. And if you answer the question, you get entered into the draw. And then the question for Matt, we do have a bunch of different questions, so I'm just trying to see what, I think this one's a good one. Now, we all have bad audition days, obviously. As a music director and an accompanist in general, what do you think is like the worst thing that an actor can do? Is it like singing off tempo, singing off key, getting wrong note, voice cracks, forgetting lyrics, etc.?
Right. I think pitch. Pitch is the number one musical aspect that everybody talks about.
Mm-hmm.
The casting directors have amazing ears. Even though they might not be musicians, they know. They know when somebody sings flat or sharp. The directors, most of the time do, and of course the music director. So that's, something that you really want to make sure is worked out. And, if you need to work with a voice teacher, just spend more energy with it. It's well worth money well spent. I know people whose pitch has improved greatly by doing that kind of work. Also, learning to play the piano or the guitar, that also is a huge help for pitch. But that's, I've seen plenty of people forget lyrics, voice crack, and still got the job, So, you want to make sure overall that your pitch is good.
Makes sense. Okay. I was worried because I for whatever reason, I always have trouble, especially if it's a last minute thing. It's like, oh, you got to audition and you have to sing this tomorrow. The lyrics is going to be like the death of me. I can't. Sometimes I'm like, what is the lyric? And then I just make up my own thing that just rhymes. And I'm like, oh my God, that was terrible.
I don't know how you guys do it. It's just, and then especially, you haven't sung a song in months, and you're just asked to pull that out of the hat and perform it now for a top casting director. It's amazing. So I think people understand, and people understand when you're given size. If you had just a couple of hours to look at it, or an hour, usually the casting director might even tell the team, hey, this actor just got this morning, So the casting directors are on your side a lot of the time.
Yeah, I guess especially if you're right for the role too.
Right. Yes. So of course you want to make sure the lyrics are there and you don't crack, and you're going to always have a note that's kind of dependable. If you're looking to have like a high note, in the song, especially if it's like a final note, make sure that whatever note you decide to use is something that is going to happen and easily, no problem. And if not, maybe you're having like what you were saying, like a tough day, maybe your voice isn't feeling like you can get up there, have the song in a different key, have the song transposed down a half step. So that way you can say, you know what, I'd love to sing this song, but I'm gonna just sing it in the lower key today, because because I think that will make me sound better, make me look better,
Yeah, makes sense. I personally have actually skipped auditions before when I would wake up and I'm like, okay, I just don't have a voice today. It's usually like when you're getting sick. And I've also done auditions when I was sick and regretted it because I'm like, okay, that sounded like I don't have a voice at all. Like I'm literally whispering, where is that voice?
Such a, so many opinions about that. Sometimes it's like good to just come in and let them see you, because they might see some, but if you're going to be up there coughing and hacking and all that stuff, that's probably not.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on how bad it is. Like if you're going to come in for the first time for a casting director and just be terrible, that's probably how they're going to remember you, right? If they already know you and you keep doing a good job every time and then you show up and you're like, okay, I'm sick, then maybe it'll be different.
And look, New York, it has a long winter, cold climate, people get sick. So it's common,
Yeah, I got to learn to work through that too. All right, so we are pretty much near the end of our stream. So for those watching, here is the last question. What is your favorite musical theater song? So this is the last question for the draw, and we'll do the draw right after this, and I'll check if anyone asks any last minute questions. But while I do that, Matt, is there anything else? I know we haven't covered, we didn't have time to cover all the questions that we had. We have like 30 of them here. But is there anything else that you would recommend for the actors to do to make your job as an accompanist easier and to do a good job at their audition?
Don't have your phone on. Anyway, my kid is looking at my phone. I think the general theme of what I've been trying to talk about tonight is, being prepared and having the music be as spot clean, ready to go, ready to be played as possible, so you get the best opportunity to audition well and feel good about it. And keep studying.
Awesome. I'm reading some of these comments, and Sharon's saying she picked up some great rep folder prep ideas. Thank you for sharing on this platform. So thanks, Matt, for doing this. I'm sure everybody's appreciative of this as much as I am. I'm actually learning a lot too during these streams. The goal is to help actors, and I think we're accomplishing that.
Yeah, and again, this is my way of looking at things. That there are lots of other points of view.
Of course,
so, take what you like, or what speaks to you.
All right, and now before we do the draw, one last question. Since you did work on Broadway, and since I'm sure a lot of people want to know what it takes to get to Broadway. So what would you say for people who you auditioned from, I guess, beginning to end, or if you whose auditions stood out, I guess, that they made it to Broadway, maybe from an unknown actor, or I guess, we're talking about more unknown now, because not the stars that just get cast in roles, but okay, this person did such a great audition, they got a call back after call back after call back and made it to Broadway. So what does it take to get there?
There's so many factors. It's being right for the role, being the right height, being right the size, being the right sex, being the right voice type. There's so many factors. Having a certain sensibility as an actor, having a certain sensibility as a singer. Is the role something that dances or just moves? So many factors. So I think everybody's path is different, and if you want it bad enough, just got to go for it and study with the best people you can, and that way you'll know that you gave it, you gave it all, your all. Yeah, that's probably the best way of looking at it is, you can't compare yourself to anybody. Things happen for certain people at certain times. Like I remember when Les Mis was auditioning the original production, a lot of kids who were coming right out of college, got cast because they wanted the students to, be young and have that youth and freshness to them.
Yeah.
Some people in their 40, hey, I've been at this for 20 years, and these kids are just coming out of college getting cast. Everybody's path is different. Some people takes he's made their Broadway debuts at in their 60s. So you really can't compare it to anybody else. Just study and be as prepared and driven as you can be.
Yeah. And I guess one thing that keeps coming up during all these streams, the advice that everybody agrees on is that being prepared and doing a good job every time is usually what gets you there. I mean, some people do get lucky and get it from, I guess, the first audition if they're like really right for the role. But
luck is definitely a factor to being in the right place at the right time, and fitting into the mold of what track is. So yeah.
All right. So I think we don't have any more time left, unfortunately. So thank you for everybody who was watching and participating and asking questions. I will go through the comments once again after the stream to make sure that I didn't miss anything and put down the questions that we didn't get to answer today for our next streams. And also I see a lot of people asked for additional stream topics. So we'll do our best to get, professionals from that walk of life, if I may say so, to talk about that. So Jaylan, thanks for the composer suggestion, because I've been wanting to get a composer or two on here just to talk about how composers work with shows, how the whole thing works once you compose the song, what happens next, kind of thing. So hopefully in the near future, stay tuned. If you want to stay tuned for our future streams, I posted a link to our group at the beginning, so just scroll up to the comments, and the first comment should be the link to the group. If you want to join the group to be notified about the next streams, you can do that. Or you can also just follow this page and be notified that way. Or just check back every week or so. We try to do this a few times a month. And I believe that's it for the draw now. Let's see, I've tried to compress this as much as I could so we don't have too many. Okay, let's see. Okay, so Matt, pick a number from 1 to 42.
26.
26. And the winner is Lisa Curtis. Congratulations, Lisa. And now that you won, you gotta watch Les Mis. Everybody has to watch Les Mis, come on. You don't have to, I'm just kidding. Not everybody likes Les Mis, which I personally don't understand. I'm obsessed with that musical, but So congrats, Lisa. Message this page and I'll put you in touch with Matt, and you guys can discuss what to coach. Everybody else, thank you so much for answering questions, and join us for our next streams. The new events for these streams are already up on the page, so you can check them out. Next week, we'll be talking about dance auditions with Amber Mack, choreographer. Then we will also be covering Disney auditions after that, and Shakespeare auditions with Chicago Shakespeare's casting director, Bob Mason. So check those out and hope you can join us for the next streams. So that's it, and have a great night, everybody. And thanks so much, Matt, for doing this.
Can I just plug my service one more time?
Of course, yes.
Okay, so if anybody needs transcriptions rehearsal piano tracks, check me out, matteisenstein.com with one T, or you can look for me on Facebook, also Matt Eisenstein Music Services, YouTube, I have a demo of me playing like 16 different songs, little chunks, so you get a sense of what it's going to sound like. And feel free to message me anytime, and I usually get back to people pretty quickly.
Yeah, I can confirm that. Within like 15 minutes. And with 2 kids. Amazing. Yes, so it's once again, everybody watching, Matt's contact information is going to be at the end screen of the stream. So if you would like to contact him, it'll be right there, or message this page, or find Matt on Facebook. We're here to help. So let us know. And congrats, Lisa, again. I'll wait for your message and put you in touch with Matt. All right. Thank you, everybody, and see you at the next stream. Bye.
Thanks, Julia.